What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering and Too Much Water. That's right, Kaylee Plague receiving some instant karma or instant regret after calling gamers babies or telling them to grow up. Imagine my shock. Look, I've been running exclusively games for, almost 2 years now, or a year and a half, and covering video games for even longer. And there's kind of two things that you don't talk about, you don't say about gamers because it just always is awful. One is to call them entitled or toxic. These are just bad form clickbait articles that are never well thought out and never good. They're just gamers bad. And then there's also the video games grow up from a video game journalist is pretty rich. Now, to give you some lore on Kaylee Plague, she is the Too Much Water game developer. That's right. On November 18th, 2014, IGN published its review of Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire for Nintendo 3DS, which praised the title's gorgeous CG details and post-game Easter eggs, while listing an abundance of HMs, hidden machines, and water as its cons. The game received a 7.8 out of 10, given the geographical setting for Omega Ruby and Sapphire is in a fictional region consisting of many islands and waterways. The review's commentary on, quote, too much water instantly became a point of contention. Well, Kaylee Plague is back at it again, poking at the Pokemon community over the national decks and many other critiques that the community has. She points out today in a tweet that is not going to age well for her, how many people complaining about the national decks in Sword and Shield have actually caught them all before? Grow up. She then goes on to double down by saying, honestly, the wider Pokemon community outside of competitive has been toxic for years. I know this all too well, but this is some next level BS. Well, this is coming from a games journalist who's been widely mocked for the past 5 years for hot takes like, why are all the zombies in Days Gone white? Even though there is lore reasoning for it. An attempted social justice hot take by a video games developer that did not end well. The reality is there are many things that the hardcore Pokemon community is mad about, not just the national decks, but to reduce it down to the national decks is to say you don't really care, that you have no interest in understanding the wider variety. And look, I've covered the national decks controversy before, and I was wrong. I didn't know everything I needed to know, and the Pokemon community let me know that. And there's been a wide variety of things cut from the game, including this article from just yesterday. Pokemon Sword and Shield data mine, 144 moves have been cut. It seems in the absence of the national decks, Pokemon Sword and Shield will extend to attacks as data mine will extend to attacks as data mine has revealed 144 moves have been cut from the game. Pokemon Sword and Shield will be the first mainline Pokemon games to be released on the development team, coupled with the fact that there are now over 800 Pokemon in the series, meant that Pokemon Sword and Shield would include less Pokemon than previous games. This is a fallacy, okay? Let me explain why. All these journos who are basically saying, less content is better, siding with the corporations and minimizing the community's complaints, keep saying, developers. No, you could, and I know this would be shocking, give them more time to give the customers a complete game. I know it's shocking in today's world where, most games come out about 50% done and there's like 2 companies in the entire earth that deliver complete games in the AAA variety. But you could have done that. You could also have said, hey, the game's going to launch with, reduced Pokedex and we're going to bring everything back in over time. Or you could have said, look, we're not going to have them, but you can still import them in from other games. There's a wide variety of things that I'm going to show in the Pokemon community's response that gives them every right to be mad at the developer because they basically alluded to the fact that, well, we're cutting all this stuff out to give you a better game, and it doesn't really look like that. It isn't just Pokemon that are cut from the game. Pokemon Sword and Shield, as a data mine of the games reveal 144 moves from throughout the series are absent. The new leak comes courtesy of Kapodix on Twitter, who has uploaded a list of cut moves to Pastebin. The list of cut moves include Dragon Rage, Barrier. I'm not going to go through all that. It's not too surprising to see all of these moves removed from the Pokemon Sword and Shield, considering the amount of content that has been taken away in other departments. The removal of so many Pokemon meant that moves must seem like an easy cut to make, especially as Z moves were already on the chopping block. Pokemon Sword and Shield have faced backlash from fans regarding the absence of the national dex, and there are likely to be many people that are furious that the removal of moves wasn't announced as well. By the way, they're announcing this quietly when it's too late. There were fans who complained about Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon not having enough new content, but those games were looking better by the day when compared to the cuts that Pokemon Sword and Shield have endured to make their way to a home console. Pokemon Sword and Shield will be released for the Nintendo Switch in 3 days. Now, the gaming community has a laundry list of complaints with the Pokemon Sword and Shield game, but the journalists continue to side with the developers and big corporations. I know that's probably shocking to you, but it's true. And then you have articles like this: how no national dex in Pokemon Sword and Shield could be a good thing. Let me translate that. How less content is a good thing. There's also this fallacy that a lot of these people are saying, like, well, you don't have all 800 Pokemon. Like, who literally catches all the Pokemon anyway? Yeah, it's not like the tagline of Pokemon is, gotta catch them all. That's neither here nor there, though. This is a way to, I don't know if it's a form of gaslighting, but it's definitely misrepresenting the complaint. It's not that all about the completionists. And by the way, there are completionists out there that are mad that they won't be able to do this. But it's not about all the Pokemon. It's about all the people who can't now play with their favorite Pokemons, because many people will have their favorite Pokemon cut. Yes, this is bad for the competitive community as well, but even the casuals that have been buying the game religiously for years and importing their huge catalog of Pokemon will no longer be able to do it. And that's, of course, a problem I agree with. So they go on to say, when news first broke that no national dex would be in Pokemon Sword and Shield, fans were extremely upset. They felt it was a bad move from the developer because so many Pokemon players had carried over their teams for generations of games. The emotional attachments those fans feel to the roster are deeper than Game Freak and Nintendo might have expected. As momentum and fan outrage continued to swell following the announcement, some expected the policy would be changed last minute, but instead, the developer has doubled down its decision, then tripled down earlier this week. In a recent interview with Inside Gamer VG 24/7, Game Freak producer, can't pronounce that name, stated that having no national dex in Pokemon Sword and Shield is an approach that the company wants to, quote, continue in the future with Pokemon games. Truthfully, it's not a bad idea, just one that fans might need to get used to. Yeah, get used to a worse product, guys. Come on, just shut up and buy our product and begin to get excited about our next product. Well, the emotional attachment to Pokemon can no longer make the leap to the next generation of games isn't something that should be discounted. It's also reasonable to examine the positives. Oh, this will be good. Starting with a reduced workload. Oh, here we go. Again with this workload BS. There's absolutely no reason the game has to come out November 15th. You could have put it out in spring. I'm sure that people that work on a game would like to have some job security. This is such a BS cop-out. Think of the MUD developers whose average salary is $80,000 to $100,000 a year. Okay, MUD developers who would get months more of steady work. What are you advocating for unemployment? Do you not want them to have things to work on? This is such a BS cop-out. Even if it feels like Sword and Shield isn't delivering on enough innovation, it's in this iteration to justify the lack of the national dex. It's the theory behind the decision and possibility for even bigger positive changes soon that should be at least enticing as something to try out for the next few games. Holy crap, don't hurt yourself with this stretch. So the idea is that you should just sit there and take it because maybe a developer that has proven to not care about you will suddenly start to care about you. And of course, going back to Kaylee Plague's awesome tweet, let's just look at some of the sweet replies. Again, grow up, gamers. Less content is good. How about this one from Lonely Shay? You're misconstruing why people are upset. At the end of the day, this problem had to happen at some point. The problem is about half the decks was cut out, including fan favorites. It was cut out in a way that destroys the balance of competitive, even though balancing was cited as rationale. With no noticeable positive trade-off, a litany of graphical issues, content cuts, unfinished textures, and no mention of when announcing Pokemon Home, the National Dex controversy was just a tipping point for issues that people have had with Game Freak since X and Y. Interesting. How about Ham Slammer? No Victory Road, no Elite Four, gym leaders locked in game versions, bland battlegrounds, trainers disappearing during moves, bad size scaling, deleted Pokemon moves, no Mega Evolutions, no Z moves, no Pokemon following, but National Dex, right? This is a great way of putting together essentially the fact that a lot of game journals are trying to just discount criticism by saying, oh, you can't get all your toys? Oh, cry more, little baby. How about Oki the player? Please tell me more of how toxic it is to ask of what has practically become a yearly franchise for a year delay. One that holds the record for the biggest media franchise in terms of revenue, no less. Please tell me how they can't possibly afford a normal HD development time. How about Luis? I'm not playing the game to catch them all. That's not the point. I want to play using my favorite Pokemon. How about Ryan Flooring? I think it's more than that. National Dex was cut in order to add, quote, new features and, quote, animations per Game Freak. What we got were the same models we've seen since X and Y, no improvements in gameplay, and basically an unpressed 3DS game. How about Tyler? Excuse you? I think that most of the complaints are due to the fact we cannot transfer some of our favorite Pokemon that we've had since 2003. Have you tried doing any actual research as to why people are upset? And you call yourself a games journalist. Jameson James says, I get it, but when a large portion of my favorites are missing in every game before this one, they were readily available, it's still bad. It's 2 decades of precedent that's upended, and it's upsetting. I'd gladly wait another year or two for National Dex, and I think most people would. And we'll finish with people reminding Kaylee Plague of her 7.8 out of 10, negative, too much water. That's games journalism in 2019. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.